And we are live. Happy
Awesome.
Monday, everybody. Happy May. Welcome back to another episode of Mindset Monday, the live show where we help you improve your mindset, grow your business, and just have a great week. I'm your host, Hayden Humphrey, uplifter and mindset coach. I am very excited about my guest today. Even in the few minutes that we had before we started talking, I was like, man, this is going to be a good show. But I am extraordinarily excited and happy to have my good friend and super talented entrepreneur, esteemed colleague, Mr. John Marshall. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Hayden. Happy to be here. Yeah, this is a wonderful format. I love coming on to just have conversation, just like we did when we opened up the live for the tech check. It's like, let's
Hmm.
open it up and invite people in to start thinking about things like this, especially at the beginning of the
Hmm.
week. It's like set yourself up for success, and there's no better way to do that than start talking mindset, right?
Absolutely. 1000%. For the folks watching who haven't had the opportunity to meet you or interact with you just yet, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh man, here we go. What do we have time for? No. So, everyone, yes, you'll see on screen there. So, I'm John, founder of Humessence. So, Humessence is a coaching and organization development firm for really the place for organizations where we're working to end burnout, like really the sources, like causes of burnout, and through that also the communication. So not just communication where it's, you know, giving speeches, leading better meetings, but how do we help people communicate what's not being said, right? Having those more challenging conversation and not just performance feedback conversations, but even bringing your ideas to the table, challenging upline. And, so that's really where we focus in on is giving employees the tools to end burnout, helping them have the conversations that they're not having today, and providing leaders the skills to be able to create that environment, right? So the leader's role is about, how do you create an environment that's psychologically safe and engaging to allow for some of that conversation to happen, right? To allow for folks to be able to voice when something is on their mind. And, that's really the organizations of the future and, the organizations I want to be a part of. So I thought, how do we create it? We bring the human essence back to modern business. And that's what we're
Mm.
doing as a business. A little bit about me. I've originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been in Houston, Texas now for about it'll be 9 years in June. The energy industry moved me down here right after leaving Penn State. Um, Actually, I was in DC for a year and a half before that. So then originally undergrad was engineering and finance, both bachelor's degrees, worked in the energy industry for 10 years in sales and business development. And then when we talked about getting to this life, right, this coaching and organization development life, it's like how'd that happen, right? And it was through a massive slowing down and mindset shift. So there was a point within my career where I was looking for something more fulfilling, looking for an outlet beyond just diving into the work during the week and partying on the weekend. I'm like, what is this? What is this life all about?
It's got to
So
be more.
that's when I found yoga. Yoga actually really introduced me to like slowing down, and
Mm.
it introduced it with a sense of physicalness that really pulled me in, right? Because I had always been an athlete, so that was something that really pulled me into the mental side of the practice. So I got very much into yoga, meditation. I had always been a student of the philosophy for a while, but then in 2017, when I took my first class there in January 2017, I taught my first class January 2018. At the same time,
Mm,
still working for Exxon, and then kept doing that 500 hours of training. That was really the time was able to take a step back and think, oh, okay. So a lot of the, even challenges or discomfort or, bad moods or anything that would happen in the workplace was all about my level of my involvement in it. Like I was creating a lot of that. And it took 500 hours of yoga training and a lot of practice outside of that just to become aware of, the reality I was creating. So at
mm,
that same time, we were going through a culture shift at the company, and there were a lot of values being, spoken about, but not a lot of behavior change. So this was 2018 to 2021-ish, and that's when I really launched into what is the science of human behavior? Like, why do we do what we do? And that's when I discovered coaching psychology, because that's what
mm,
coaching is. If you look
mm,
at the research of coaching, it's the science of behavior change, right? And that's what was missing at my organization at the time. So then I said, like, how do we create environments like this? How do we start creating engagements to help people learn these skills? And that's how Humessence was formed. That's how I started diving into coaching. And then I left to take this full time in 2021. And we've been serving clients ever since. And it's
mm,
been one heck of a journey as moving from that, the career into entrepreneurship, moving into full time coaching, and really into a profession that I love. When I'm doing work
mm,
here, when I'm working with my senior leaders, my emerging leaders, when I'm giving a talk, leading a workshop with a team, it's it's not work. It's full immersion, flow state kind of work. I love it.
mm, mm. I can tell.
Right?
That's one
Kind
of the
of like,
things really I love it. No, it's like it's one of the things I really appreciate about you is like the intention that you've brought to the work that you do. And like the word that was coming up for me as you were talking was like perpetual student. Like you just strike
oh,
me as somebody who is always interested in learning more, wanting to learn more, like wanting to expand your knowing and your knowledge. I think it's part of the reason why I love connecting with you and talking with you so much is there's just like there's so much to talk about, you know. Um,
seriously.
and
That's, you bring that up, and I always leave half the other things I do out of my bio and story to get to this point, because I
mm,
still teach yoga and meditation every week. That's been something that I love doing as a publisher on Insight Timer. I get to do it right here, throw out my mat, teach a class every week, and it keeps that going for me and keeps me being a
mm,
teacher of that practice. And also the co-host of the Present Professional podcast. So just really a platform for insights like these for people to just get around different topics to digest whenever they would like. Anywhere that you can
mm,
get your podcast, you can find us at the Present Professional. And
mm,
you talked about that perpetual learning. I'm also getting my master's in positive psychology right now from Arizona State University. I started that in
mm.
January. So finally diving into the academia area of the research behind a lot of the work that we do with clients and with groups.
Mm, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
Well, John, the question that I have been using on this show, which I will also ask you,
Mhm.
what is a mindset shift that you have created recently, and what impact has that had on your business?
Let's Well, a lot has been happening in personal life mindset shift wise as well. And I'll correlate it to the business a little bit here. So we had my daughter in on March 4th. So
Congrats.
almost, yeah, 2 months now. And so that's been quite a journey, and like a mindset realization. Like you notice how much more of your awareness has shifted
Mm,
towards this small human that you love, and what that does to the other priorities in your life as well. So
Mm,
it's as much
mm,
as I want to be present and dialed in with her, it's caused me to be able to be present and dialed in my work as well. I've been able to say no to more things. And I've been able to focus in on simplifying, really what I want to focus my growth on. So now,
mm,
as it ties to the business, the theme of this year when we sat down as a team, so there's 6 of us on the team now at Humessence, and the themes for this year were simplicity and consistency. And the simplicity piece I feel has been the biggest focus because we're
mm,
almost simplifying enough to get down to the things that we can be even more consistent on with messaging and who we want to be in the world, right? And it's amazing because that same that same like core element of our focus for the business has been a core focus of my life, right?
mm,
With
mm,
my daughter coming in, it's like, who do I want to be? Where do I want to focus my time? What do I want to grow into so that I can have the life that I want to have with her and my fiance? And then same thing with the business. Is like, who do we want to be in this world of, you know, extremely successful, well thought out, like amazing coaches, practitioners, speakers, writers. It's like there's so much thought leadership out there nowadays
mm,
that
mm,
collaborations like this, I think, are paramount. Collaborations between the different organizations are paramount. Let's laser into the things that we really want to focus on and make really impactful change and partner with those that can take the other pieces of it. And that was a big thing that was an issue coming into entrepreneurship was, okay, now I have all this time. I have some I have some savings, like, I can do anything now. So let me just do
mm.
everything. Let's serve everyone. Right? Everyone needs coaching. It's and truly, I do truly believe that when it comes down to it, it's all the relationship is the cornerstone of a coaching engagement. So I feel that, while your marketing may tailor who you want to work with as a client, I feel that the relationship dictates the success of a coaching engagement more than anything else. So I do have clients across the board, men, women, ages like 23 to 60s. It's
Mm.
like there's really no ideal like client for me personally, but
Sure.
the thing is it's more about the relationship and then what they're trying to create in their lives as well, right? So that's a
Mm,
little bit different.
mm,
So it's if someone's coming for coaching and just wants to talk business strategy and not
mm,
go to a level deeper, we can
mm,
flush that out in the chemistry session and I can send them to business coaches that really serve that area well. For me, like, that's not me, right?
mm, mm.
For me,
It's
it's the conversations to go a little bit deeper in, what is at the root of the challenge that you're facing. So,
mm,
what's not working today and what's at the root of that is what I'm more interested
mm,
in, and developing
mm,
self-awareness, folks that want to become more integrated. Now, I said a lot there and I feel like we got off the track of simplicity.
no, it's great.
And so that shift has resulted in us cutting, I don't know, call it one third of our programs, reducing pages on the website. Simply, it's like really getting down
Mm,
to what we do as an organization, right? And then what I
mm,
do as in my career personally. So
mm,
what I want to focus on is coaching,
mm,
teaching, and
mm,
speaking in a like interactive workshop sense, right? Well, I'm fine doing keynotes and like larger audience engagements. I really enjoy working with, groups of 10 to 20, like where people can like really get in to work with one another in like a workshop standpoint. So for me, I'm focusing on coaching, leading those workshops and interactive presentations, and teaching. So my teaching role is actually now becoming a lot more. So I'm going back to my original life coach certifying school, Life Purpose Institute in San Diego, and I'm starting co-teaching my first class actually on May 21st. So now I'll be teaching and
Cool.
certifying the next round of life coaches. So I'm really excited
Mm,
about that personally. So simplicity
mm,
career-wise for me, teaching, coaching, speaking, doubling down on what that looks like for me, and even the topics that I'll be working on from a like teaching and speaking perspective. And then same thing with the company. Like I mentioned, the tools to end burnout, communicate what's not being said, and the leaders to create the environment around that. Now, you'll
mm.
start seeing more and more of that messaging being reflected in our organization and in our website and copy and things, but that's part of the process, the consistently upgrading.
Totally. That's awesome. Yeah. I love so much of that, and that idea of simplicity, how powerful that is, because I think that oftentimes as people, as solopreneurs, as business owners, we have a tendency to we need to be doing more. We need to be doing more. We need to be adding more. We need to be, X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. When in reality, there's so much power, there's so much potency in looking at how do I simplify? How do I get more focused? The analogy that comes to mind for me when I think about this is like when you have a magnifying glass, and when it's focused, you can literally burn things. You could
Hmm.
literally start a fire. But if it's not focused, it's everywhere, it's dispersed, it's just not as potent.
Hmm.
And I think that there's something to be said for the sort of energetic conversation around potency and simplicity and focus.
I love that. Now, another thing that brings is the concept of polarity is everywhere in my life. I mean, it's on my arm right there actually. If you can see
Oh,
that
nice.
little plus minus. But it's I love looking at things as, on a spectrum. And, we only know something as such an amazing moment because of the polarity of, more challenging moments that we've had. Right? It's
Mm,
like being at that equilibrium state is, more of the challenge actually than recognizing the poles. So
mm,
all of this to say that focus, where you can, and the thing is like with the magnifying glass analogy, you focus in that light and you can start the fire right away. But then with that speed and tension and focus, there's also a lot of time of space, like where you can intensely
mm,
focus and then not
mm,
look around, but just set the magnifying glass aside, right? It's so as important it is to focus, simplify, remove distractions, it's just as important to have that open awareness space. So that's another thing I've seen created is like the more I simplify, the more I focus in on what I do and where I spend my time, the more I can be
mm.
intentional about having that open awareness time. Right. And this brings another quote that has just stuck with me forever, and I'll probably butcher it. It's from the Undoing Project. Uh,
Okay.
the Undoing Project. It was the story of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky's life. It was a pretty pivotal book for me that I read back in maybe 2016 or something. Anyway, it's like, and they were researchers, professors, teachers. They basically created behavioral economics. If you're not familiar with either of them, um, it's like the key to doing any good research, or I'll say in my own words, like producing anything original, like things worthwhile, is to always be a little underemployed. He says we waste years not being able to waste hours. So it's for me, that means
Mm,
like being intentional about creating
mm,
space in your life to think, to to dream, to imagine. It's it's critical if you want to do, if you want to do things that are changing the game and stay
mm.
curious.
It's like if you don't have the space for that inspiration to come in, it literally won't happen. If
Uh,
you're so
yeah,
involved and so, you know, uh, focused on what's happening, there's no space for truly innovative ideas, like truly creative ideas to be able to come through. And I think what's
100%.
so cool about that concept and so much of what I'm finding myself really called to talk more about is this idea of rhythm,
Mm,
specifically when it comes to entrepreneurship, specifically when it comes to creating results and creating things. Because I don't know what your experience has been. I'd be curious to hear about this. But my experience when it comes to rhythm is there is a right rhythm. There is a right way to do things when it comes to building a business, when it comes to finding clients, when it comes to doing anything. I find it's often this sort of very linear. It makes me think of like a metronome. Like it's this like
yeah,
almost like robotic sense of rhythm and this robotic, perpetual sense of consistency.
yeah.
Uh, and I, for a long time, found myself trying to force myself into that
Mm,
and feeling like if I couldn't maintain that, then something was wrong with me. And I wasn't going to be successful. I wasn't going to be able to create what I wanted, whatever it might be. But as time has gone on, I've really come to recognize and have started to trust and create the space for uh, uh, finding my own rhythm. And often
yes.
that means long periods of time where I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
Because that is the time that I need to be able to integrate, to be able to download, to be able to source myself, nourish myself, to be able to line myself up so that when the time is right, I can make something happen extraordinarily quickly. Very, very quickly. I can create something and bring something into existence. But the rhythm is not consistent. It's much more energetic. It's much more natural. It's much more organic. Um,
And
and
unique to you.
Totally, exactly. And so I think that's so much of the conversation, right?
Mm,
And so much of why I love having these kinds of conversations, why I want to continue to have these kinds of conversations, is prompting this question for everybody who's watching, prompting this question for you of what is your natural rhythm?
yep.
Because the things that you're seeking, the success that you're seeking, the results that you're seeking, the experiences that you're seeking come about most enjoyably and probably most rapidly as a result of finding and living into your own natural rhythm.
Oh man, this is a we could be on here. We could be on here for half a day. Now, so yes, everyone your unique rhythm. So with clients
Mm,
even, throughout all my clients, there's always part of the coaching engagement is about finding their unique rhythm. And when it comes to organizations as well, that rhythm is also so undervalued in the
mm,
corporate workspace, right?
mm,
I mean, our economy is founded, is based on production, more and more results, increased profit, right? Which can cause can cause organizations to value the burnout cycle, right?
mm,
Now, so when you're talking about your personal rhythm, you talk about an organizational rhythm as well, like that strategy, execution phase, strategy, execution. But when you're just in execution and trying to do strategy at the same time within execution, and you don't have a natural rhythm and you're burning people at both ends, there's no space for that innovation to come in. Just like you said,
mm,
that you need to create that space for inspiration to come in, for downloads to
mm,
come in. And that's a big space that organizations are just completely dropping the ball on, is having
mm,
space for inspiration to come in and then the
mm,
environments for those ideas to come to the table, right? So I
mm,
wanted to introduce that perspective as well from organization standpoint. But then from a personal standpoint, well, I mean, I guess really laws of the universe type standpoint, we're hitting a couple of the ancient Hermetic principles, if you're familiar with a bunch of those, right? And I I can't rattle them off right now, but I want to introduce one more as vibration, right? So
Mm.
there's polarity and rhythm and vibration are three of them. Then there's what, gender, uh I can't remember the others, but anyway. So rhythm is basically, like I said about polarity, like rhythm is the movement between those poles, right? And being
Mm.
okay with that and being like, what is the natural rhythm of things, right? Everything is, positives and negatives of one another moving between, right? Crest and trough, life, death, strategy,
Mm.
execution, black, white, and just variations of what's in the middle of that, right?
Mm.
And your
Mm.
rhythm can be within a day, within a
Mm.
month,
Mm.
especially when it comes to the female rhythm as well, can be very different from the male rhythm, right? It's like really, really personalizing a rhythm to yourself is going to bring you so much ease, but then also inspiration, like you said. Now,
Mm.
vibration is something that you can keep high throughout each of those cycles, right? Vibration you can talk about in many different ways, right? Everything around us is moving, right? There is nothing that is static. If you are, a student of physics or chemistry, I think you understand that nothing is actually still, right? Even the hardest materials, right? It's all still movement. Electrons
Mm.
traveling around, all the we won't get into the science of it, but it's the same thing happens within our bodies as well. And that happens, emotionally, thought wise. It's like when you are in the downward cycle of your rhythm, say you're taking that time to create space, but then you're thinking about what I should be doing, what I'm missing out on, but if I'm taking this time off, I'm not creating, then like, then I'm worthless in the eyes of society, right? But then that kills your vibration down in that level. But if you can be where you are, that's why the practice of mindfulness is so imperative. Like e-
Mm.
every client that I work with, we talk about self-awareness and mindfulness, and I can
Mm.
teach it from a lens, if I'm speaking to engineers and scientists, like talk about the science of it. From a spiritual sense, if you want to, go into that side of it. But no matter how it resonates with you, the ability to be where you are in your rhythm is life changing,
Mm.
because
Mm.
there's there was one, I can't remember the exact author, but it was from a TED Radio Hour podcast, like maybe, I don't even know, 8 years ago or something. And the I can't remember his name, but he grew up on a nature preserve in South Africa. Oh, this is Enki, by the way, everyone who's watching. He's
Hey,
my
buddy.
office mate. Um, so he grew up in a nature preserve in South Africa, and Nelson Mandela would spend time there, right, to kind of avoid press and paparazzi. He said, there's no better place to avoid that than have lions walking around, right? So he would go to this like big nature preserve in South Africa, and this author, the kid that grew up there, was talking about nature and like how it has a beautiful way of being where it is. And he was talking about a lion and said, lions have this ability to like rest deeply,
Mm.
really deep, and,
Mm.
lay and rest for 10, 12 hours. But then, when they get up to hunt, right, they awaken with this like ferocity. and able to just like take off, right? Expend all the energy and capture their prey, right? And he said there was a quote that really stuck with me, and it was that nature has this ability to always like be where it is. And
Mm,
the lion isn't resting, thinking about being productive, or chasing a prey and thinking and wishing it was resting, right?
mm,
It just is where it is at that moment. And like that's the like
mm,
nature has the ultimate ability to practice mindfulness. Like there's a
mm,
lot that we can learn from that. And
totally.
when I heard that, like that really stuck with me because how many times, are you resting thinking about being productive, or saying you're going to take a rest weekend, but then you just can't stop like cleaning the house and the garage and like just trying to feel productive instead of like
Mm,
truly being where you are and rest and taking that
mm,
space, that time to waste hours so you don't waste years. It's so imperative. So I wanted to bring
mm,
up that concept of vibration and
mm,
mindfulness to actually be in touch
mm,
with what that is, so you can understand where you are, so you can see your emotions, feelings.
mm.
That takes being where you are.
Absolutely. There's a level of presence, I think, a level of allowance, a level of acceptance that is very challenging to achieve when we live in a society and in a culture that, to the point that you made, really values productivity.
Hmm.
John, you're helping me recognize that I think I need to, in the future, I'm going to make this show longer.
Oh man,
It's like,
I think it's
we
just
start getting
me.
into
It
the
might
good
just be
stuff.
me.
No, no, it's great. It's so great. And it's funny because for me, right, this is also sort of like an adaptive exercise of understanding like what feels best. How do I want to create? And, to the point that you made in the beginning, like creating spaces to be able to have this kind of conversation, just
Hmm.
the depth that we can get to in a longer period of time is super cool.
Hmm.
So if you're open to that, I'd love to have you back on
Of
in
course,
the future.
I'd be
And
happy to.
in the meantime, how can people find you? How can they work with you and the team at Humessence?
Of course. So humessence.com, or even if you Google humessence, it's our own trademarked word. So you'll find us. And at humessence.com, you'll see the different offerings there for senior leaders, emerging leaders, for teams. And, also if you just want to go in, find a coach, just go right to meet the team, and we would love to have a conversation with you. You can schedule a consultation with anyone on our team to get to know better, to see if coaching is going to be a good fit for you. We'd be happy to talk about an engagement for you or for your organization. And with us
Mm,
being in May and Mental Health Awareness Month, I've been talking to a lot of organizations about our workshop, Burnout to Balance. And the thing about our Burnout to Balance workshop is we don't really focus on burnout, or strategies to just alleviate burnout, help people recognize what stage of burnout that they're in. That's just, you can feel the energy of that focus, right?
mm,
What we
mm,
focus on is giving people the tools and the awareness to create their own individual picture of balance in their lives, right? So we spend 90% of that workshop talking about creating balance and the tools to do that.
mm,
So we'll be
mm,
doing a few of those that are already booked for this month, for Mental Health Awareness Month, but let that just be your awareness. If you want to schedule something like that for your team, for your organization, go ahead on the website. You can schedule a consultation or submit a recommendation form or a proposal if you have an event where you would like something like that at. So you can submit a request
mm,
for proposal. But
mm,
ultimately, that humessence, like the human essence, is all about interacting with us. So you go to the page, connect with us, get on the phone, submit something, we'll get in touch. Let's start the conversation.
mm. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yes, if you're listening to this and you've resonated even in the slightest with what John said, I highly encourage you to reach out and start a conversation. The team that he's cultivated, the work that they're doing is just absolutely extraordinary.
Thanks, Hayden. Appreciate that.
Yeah, if you enjoyed the show and you want to go deeper with mindset and really truly becoming the creator of your own life, I encourage you to subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, Unscript Your Life. Every week, sharing tips, tricks, strategies, and stories to really help you break out of the scripts keeping you stuck and get more of what you want. You can find the link to subscribe to that in the comment section of this video, along with on my profile as well. John, any final thoughts, comments, words of wisdom?
Just be where you are. It's really the ultimate goal is, challenge comes up whenever we argue with reality, right? When we want our current state to be different, we experience distress. So be where you are, have a vision for where you want to be, trust that you'll get there.
And
it's
like kind of the source of all of the problems.
Right?
Rejecting reality.
But I mean, it really is. Like, we laugh about it, but it really is the source of all discontent or unhappiness, is not being able to be where you are. And the thing is even if you want to change that, that's okay. But accept where you are, have a vision for where you want to go, and get the right support to be there, whether that's you or your business. It's like, it's really just as simple as that. We overcomplicate things.
Yeah, 1000%. Amazing. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your insight, for your energy. I always just so love and feel so energized after connecting with you.
Agreed. Same here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's been watching today. And for the folks who are watching the recording of this conversation, have an amazing rest of your week. And I will see you back here next Monday.
Take care, everyone.